Hi, everybody. It's Jim. I just wanted to post another little mini lecture about evaluating project based learning. This slideshow is really just a catch all of a lot of things that I think about when I think about evaluating PBL, not just evaluating students, but also evaluating the quality of the projects that you're presenting to kids. So this is a free resource that you can find online. It's called the NTN Project Quality Checklist, and you can Google just that name and you can find a copy of this for yourself. I really think it's probably the easiest to look at tool that you can find online. There's a lot of other tools that NTN puts out and other organizations put out that will help you evaluate project quality. But this is the one that we use most often in our faculty. And actually, I have this linked to our staff meeting agenda just so that faculty always has a sense of what we're looking at when we're quality controlling projects, because we do an awful lot of work in that as a faculty. I like to think that one of the things that makes our projects really stand out is the fact that before they go in front of students, most of our projects have really been audited by everybody on our faculty, including non-teachers on our faculty. Our counselors even have a say in how these projects end up happening. And I think that they're stronger for that. So just to kind of break down what's on this checklist, you can read it thoroughly yourself because I'm going to give you a copy of it. But these are the things that you're really looking for when you're looking at projects. And most of them really connect to those gold standard, that gold standard framework, but they're a little different. The vocabulary in this is a little different because it's a little bit of an older tool. So you'll see that it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A's. And so it's really easy to remember. But the first A is really, is the project authentic? And does it have adult connections? So those are, I guess, 2 A's. So I guess maybe there's 6. But really, it's about the partners that you're bringing in, the audience that you're presenting in front of. Does the project seem authentic to real life? Is there a real need to know what the project is? You'll see this other phrase. There's that phrase, individual assessment of knowledge and thinking and written communication. For the purposes of this, you could just think of that as an essay that assesses content knowledge. So does the project have all those things? Academic rigor is another thing that we often look at, that we always look at. And so when we start our projects, we don't start them with a fun idea for a project first and then try to integrate the standards later. We start with the standards first. And what we're looking for are standards that are closely related to each other. So to spend 4 to 6 weeks on something, you have to cover an awful lot of standards. And so sometimes you might end up with a project that maybe isn't as super exciting as you could come up with if you were just trying to address 1 or 2 standards. But it's really important that if you're going to spend that kind of time, that you get a lot of bang for your buck. So does this project address these standards? And is it rigorous? Another thing that we look at is applied learning. So are students learning project management skills? Are they learning other skills related to problem solving and complex task knowledge? What are they learning beyond the content through the project? Active exploration is another thing that we look at. So are we making sure that students are really need to research this? They need to do some independent research in order to complete the project, in addition to everything that they're going to have in class. And do students have the opportunity to make choices in their project making? We talk about voice and choice an awful lot. Actually talk about voice and choice not just with what we ask students to do, but what I ask faculty to do. Because as we know, if you do any research on motivation, you know that people are not motivated necessarily by rewards, but they're rewarded by autonomy. They're rewarded by the ability to make decisions themselves. And so having voice and choice in the project is something that we always look for. If it's a project where there's only one way to complete it, it's probably not going to be all that successful. And also, I would say that the teacher motivation is going to be a little lower too, because all the output is not going to be very interesting. Everything's going to be pretty much rote. When projects are like that, they're always a little less engaging than they could have been, even if that one product that everybody's coming up with is really high quality. And last, we look at the assessment practices, whether or not the rubrics are really targeting specific skills, whether or not students have an opportunity to revise. So we look at all those things. Over on the left-hand side, there's some other elements that don't fit into those A's, like having a driving question, having some kind of culminating product that is really high quality and includes presentations, has benchmarks along the way. So those elements are also things we look at when we're trying to evaluate whether a project is high quality or not. This slide I include because it's one of the ways that we use to evaluate those projects. So we might have that project quality checklist in hand, but then we might use that in a critical friends protocol. The critical friends protocol is really valuable. We do it all the time as a staff. And basically, it consists of somebody bringing a project, usually an entry document and a rubric, to the faculty in a faculty meeting. They'll have a few minutes to present what the project is. Sometimes they do it as if they're the teacher in the classroom and the faculty are the students. So they'll present it. Then there'll be a time for faculty to ask some brief clarifying questions about the project, yes or no questions. And then on the sheet, it says the presenter leaves. So what that means is that the presenter is physically still in the room, but leaves the conversation, kind of like takes a step back, and it becomes sort of a workshop about the project itself. So the presenter leaves and just takes notes about what everybody's saying. Then we go through this process called likes and wonders, which we use all the time as well. It consists of 5 minutes of everybody saying what they like about the project. And so every phrase starts with, I like that this project has an authentic audience, or I really like the entry event for this project. That's followed up by, I wonder. So then we take an equal amount of time to say what we wonder about the project. And these have to be genuine things. What that means is that when you say I wonder, they actually have to be things that you wonder about, not things that you just don't like. So we try not to hide things that we don't like with wonder statements. And it's really easy to see when somebody really means, I don't like this about your project. What you're trying to do is ask them questions so that they can think more about their project. You're not overtly criticizing what they've done. The next step is next steps. And so for a period of time, we talk about next steps. So you might want to consider this outside partner to work with, or have you considered this type of culminating project? You might want to do some more research on this. You might want to see such and such a project that we've done in the past. So these next steps are things that we're giving to the person. And then finally, the presenter just, says thank you and might reflect a little bit on what's been said, but mainly is there to just appreciate the time that people spent giving them feedback. It's really important that staff knows not to get defensive during this time period. And it's also really important that you keep track of, you don't have to use this breakdown in time. This is what I generally use, but you don't have to use this breakdown in time. You can change the number of minutes. What is important though, is you have a timekeeper, and say you only have 1 minute of I likes. It's important to also use some silence and, honor the fact that that person gets 5 minutes of that particular part of the protocol. So we say a lot to each other, follow the protocol, follow the amount of time that we have to do this thing. And you'd be surprised at what comes up after a couple of seconds of silence. Silence is your friend sometimes. We're pretty often scared of it. I just wanted to point out that that protocol, the Critical Friends protocol, NTN uses that a lot, but the protocol itself comes from the National School Reform faculty. And I just wanted to give a shout out to their website. They've changed it a lot. A lot of this stuff used to be free, and some of it's hidden behind a bit of a paywall now. But still, there's an awful lot of protocols on here that you can use as a faculty to really improve your work together. So I would really encourage you to check out the National School Reform faculty site and browse through their protocols to see if any of them might be beneficial to your faculty. I also wanted to show you this website because this is where you can find a lot of free rubrics for projects that you can use as templates to change for your own projects. This is from New Tech Network as well. They've put a lot of their rubrics online, and we use the basic format for their rubrics. We've changed some things slightly sometimes. Sometimes we use single column rubrics or multi-column rubrics, but this one's really nice because it has some rubrics for all different grade levels from elementary school through high school, so you can see what those might look like for different levels of projects. It also has rubrics for these different learning outcomes other than content. So say you're looking for a rubric for collaboration or self-direction, you're going to be able to find a nice template here that you can modify. The knowledge and thinking rubrics are really content-specific rubrics. We don't so much use those. The knowledge and thinking portions of our rubrics generally come from state standards. So I think that these are helpful for schools that are in states that don't have a set of rigorous standards, but I think New York State really does. So I think it's important to note that when you're talking knowledge and thinking parts of your rubrics, when you're talking content knowledge, this might give you like a template to look at, but I would really look at your standards to replace what NTN's provided there. So I'm going to provide you with some rubrics in your notes in the class lesson so that you can see some of our rubrics and then maybe some other rubrics that I found and some other tools that would allow you to make rubrics and projects. And hopefully that gives you enough so that you can start to create your own projects, which is what you're going to be doing in the next lesson to finish up the course. Almost there.